Hiya there and welcome to Trains, Planes and Automobiles. Right, as promised, I said I would do a little bit more history on the HMS Sir Galahad. So here goes then. This is called A Catalogue of Errors, the Destruction of Sir Galahad at Fitzroy, June 1982. Many things combined to create the situation in which the logistics landing ship Sir Galahad was destroyed by Argentinian aircraft on the 8th of June 1982 with a loss of 5 crewmen and 43 soldiers. The land war with the Falkland Islands was 16 days old on the 6th of June 1982 when Phase 2 commenced, requiring 2 additional infantry battalions, about 1,300 men in all, to be brought ashore on the south coast. Due to a shortage of helicopters, they had to be brought in by sea from San Carlos. The 2 big amphibious assault ships, the HMS Fearless and the HMS Intrepid, could have done the job with one lift. But since it would have been impossible to complete the operation under the cover of darkness, they would have been exposed to an air attack at the first light of day. Instead, it was decided they would go halfway and then transship the men to transfer, basically, that means to landing craft. On the night of the 5th to the 6th of June, the men of the Scots Guards made the 150-mile trip, transferring off Lively Island to the 4 landing craft. Intrepid carried in her well deck for a very uncomfortable 6-hour journey to Bluff Cove. The next night it was Fearless's turn to ferry the Welsh Guards forward. She had only 2 landing craft aboard, and it was intended that the 4 used the previous night and which had remained at Bluff Cove should come out to meet her. They did not, and therefore only limited space was available. The battalion's headquarters company and a fighting company transferred to the landing craft available and were transferred to Bluff Cove. The remainder returned to San Carlos. The next day a signal arrived from the commanding admiral, forbidding the use of the assault ships in this way. Instead, the local naval commander decided Sir Galahad would be employed. She was then at San Carlos preparing to load Rapier SAM launchers and the brigade's field ambulance to transport them to the brigade headquarters at Fitzroy. If the ship sailed at last light, there would be enough time to land the guards at Bluff Cove and still reach Fitzroy before daylight. The infantry and the Rapier launchers were loaded promptly, but it took 6 hours to get the vehicles and men of 16 field ambulance aboard. Therefore, it was 5 hours after dusk before the ship was ready to sail. Sir Galahad's captain signalled that he had intended to delay until the following evening. A return signal ordered him to sail out at once, but go only to Fitzroy. Therefore, it was that Sir Galahad arrived at Port Pleasant at Fitzroy's harbour at 0800 the next morning. The 8th of June, unfortunately, the originator of the order dispatching Roberts had not informed the local commander of Fitzroy that 350 guardsmen with equipment would arrive with the ship and would need to be unloaded and transported to Bluff Cove. The 4 landing craft from Intrepid, which could have done the job handsomely, had already left to return them to their mothership. One of these from Fearless had been sent to Goose Green to bring up signals vehicles, and the remaining unit, Foxtrot 1, was alongside Sir Trincham, which had brought up 1,500 tons of artillery ammunition, half full of ordnance itself, and waiting for the tide to turn. The plan adopted was for Foxtrot 1 to be unloaded so that it could take off half the guardsmen and transport them to Bluff Cove. It came alongside at noon, and the guards were ordered to embark. However, the officer commanding the field ambulance, the senior rank present, intervened and claimed priority for his men and vehicles. It took a further hour to get them ashore. In the process, its loading ramp was damaged and was unable to be lowered, which meant that the heavy equipment could not be transferred via Sir Galahad's stern doors, but would have to be transshipped by crane, a very much lengthier procedure. All this went on under the eyes of the Argentinian forces on Mount Harriet, 10 miles away. I tell you what, I don't know much about the history of this, but by golly, the Royal Navy seem to have messed this up big time just by reading this. A sighting report reached the mainland, and 8 Seahawks and 6 Daggers were briefed for a bombing mission. 3 Skyhawks, and a Dagger aborted for technical reasons, but the other 10 aircraft continued on their way. An hour later, they were approaching the islands, the 3 Daggers tasked with attacking Fitzroy from the west. Skyhawks looping around to make their passes from the east in the present event. The Daggers were distracted by the presence of the frigate Plymouth and attacked her instead. Like many of their colleagues, they bombed from far too low an altitude, and their bombs failed to explode but caused superficial damage and started fires. The Seahawks followed their attack plan. 2 went for Sir Tristram, hitting her with 2 bombs near the stern, killing 2 civilian crew members. The 3 aircraft which targeted Sir Galahad came in at a higher altitude. All 3 of their bombs hit her, 1 in the tank deck, and most of the guardsmen were assembled next to tons of ammunition and a large quantity of petrol. Within seconds it had become an inferno. At least 43 men died and up to 150 were injured. Captain Roberts gave the order to abandon ship and was the last man to leave. She burned herself out and was late, and then after the war was over she was towed out to sea and sunk as a war grave. I hope you could understand that. Just by reading that, that was absolutely, just sounds disgraceful by the Royal Navy. A lot of mistakes and a lot of pointless lives lost. Anyway, thanks for listening, watching, and I hope you got most of that. Just shocking, really. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe. Bye bye.